Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. We have had a couple of miscues with our translation today. So Armando is going to read the statement live, and we're going to do better for the next hearing. But appreciate your all's patience today, and we're going to get this started. So, good afternoon. My name is Moriarty. I am the Deputy Commissioner at the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and I will be the hearing officer for this public hearing. The hearing is being held to receive oral and written comments on the proposed environmental justice rulemaking, which implements New Jersey's environmental justice law. In September 2020, Governor Murphy signed New Jersey's landmark environmental justice law, the first of its kind in the nation's most empowering environmental justice legislation. The environmental justice law recognizes that because environmental standards are often formulated on the effect pollution has upon general populations spread over wide geographic areas, existing environmental laws fail to fully consider the impacts that certain pollution-generating facilities may have on their local communities. And that this failure has created pockets of high pollution across New Jersey, where many pollution-generating facilities have become concentrated in predominant minority and low-income communities that may not, awesome, thank you. I'm not starting over. Thank you so much. That is much louder. Yes, that may lack the financial and political power to shape their local landscape and avoid disproportionate adverse impacts upon their health and environment. At its most basic, the law requires us to consider whether a specific facility seeking a specific type of permit will contribute to environmental or public health stressors in an overburdened community, considering whether and how those stressors might have a disproportionate impact when compared to the OBC's neighbors. This is a comparative analysis. The law requires the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to assess relevant environmental and public health stressors affecting New Jersey's overburdened communities and to deny or condition permits for certain facilities that cannot avoid causing or contributing to adverse environmental or public health stressors in that overburdened community. The law applies where three criteria are met. First, the facility is located or proposed to be located in an overburdened community. Second, the proposed or existing facility is one of the 8 types of facilities listed in the Act, such as major sources of air pollution, scrap metal facilities, and other solid waste facilities. Number 3 is the applicant seeks a type of New Jersey Department of Environmental permit or approval covered by the Act. Where the N.J.A.C law applies, an applicant must submit an environmental justice impact statement, or EJIS, to the department evaluating how the proposed action, whether a new facility, the renewal of a major source of air pollution, or the expansion of an existing facility, would contribute to environmental or public health stressors in the host OBC. The EJIS must also address how an applicant proposes to avoid, and where avoidance is not feasible, minimize such impacts, and under certain circumstances, provide a net environmental or public health benefit to the overburdened community. The EJIS will be available to the public in advance of the public hearing. To ensure meaningful public participation of the members of the overburdened community, an applicant is required to hold a public hearing in the overburdened community to present the proposed project and the EJIS, with a public comment period of at least 60 days to provide opportunity for feedback from those most impacted by the proposed project. Notice and materials will be made available in languages accessible to community members, and the applicant will be required to address all comments received. The department will evaluate the EJIS and the information presented at the public hearing and through public comment to determine whether additional environmental or public health stressors expected from the action in the permit application would, together with the baseline stressors already impacting the community, cause or contribute to adverse cumulative environmental or public health stressors in the overburdened community that are higher than those non-overburdened communities in the state. If that is the case, a disproportionate impact will be present, and the department may deny the permit or approve it with conditions to avoid or minimize those impacts. On June 6, 2022, the department proposed rules in the New Jersey Register to implement the environmental justice law. The public comment period on this proposal closes on September 4, 2022. As indicated in the proposed notice, or the published notice, written comments may be submitted electronically to www.nj.gov/DEP/comments or to Melissa Abetamarco. The docket number for that is 05-22-04, and those comments can be submitted to the Office of Legal Affairs at the address set forth in the proposal. All relevant comments received during the public comment period, including at today's hearing, will be addressed in New Jersey Register should the department adopt this rule proposal. This public hearing is being held in accordance with the Administrative Procedures Act, and as required, the department has provided additional notice of this public hearing through the department's website, through electronic mail, and through written communication with a number of news outlets. The goal of today's hearing is to receive verbal comments into the record concerning the rule proposal. The hearing is not intended as a question and answer session, but rather an opportunity for interested individuals to voice their concerns and suggestions regarding the rulemaking. If you have not done so yet, we ask you to please sign in at the front desk and indicate whether you're interested in speaking tonight. We'll now begin inviting individuals who have requested an opportunity to speak. When your name is called, I ask you to step up to the microphone there, state your name, any affiliation you might have, and I would ask you to spell it for the stenographer to ensure that the record is correct. We are going to ask everyone at this point to limit their comments to 3 minutes. If there is additional time after you've spoken, we will provide additional time for folks who would like to speak again. Also remind everyone that you have an opportunity to provide written comments, so anything you're not able to speak about today can certainly be provided in writing, or one of the other 4 public hearings that we'll be having on this throughout the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to now cede the microphone to Armando to read the opening statement in Spanish. Armando.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Sean Moriarty, soy el comisionador adjunto del Departamento de Protección Ambiental de Nueva Jersey. Será el oficial encargado de la audiencia pública. Esta audiencia se lleva a cabo para recibir comentarios orales y escritos sobre la propuesta de reglamentación de justicia ambiental, la cual aplica la Ley de Justicia Ambiental. El gobernador Murphy firmó en septiembre del 2020 la histórica Ley de Justicia Ambiental de Nueva Jersey, la primera de este tipo y la legislación de la justicia ambiental más fuerte del país. La Ley de Justicia Ambiental reconoce que las leyes medioambientales existentes no tienen en cuenta plenamente los impactos que ciertos establecimientos generadores de contaminación tienen en sus comunidades locales, debido a que las normas ambientales suelen formularse con base en el efecto que la contaminación tiene sobre poblaciones generalmente dispersas en amplias zonas geográficas, y que esta fracaso ha creado focos de alta contaminación en todo Nueva Jersey, donde muchos establecimientos generadores de contaminación se han concentrado en comunidades, principalmente minoritarias y de bajos ingresos, que pueden carecer de poder financiero y político para dar forma a su paisaje local y evitar impactos adversos y desproporcionados en la salud pública y el medio ambiente. En su forma más básica, la ley nos obliga a considerar si un establecimiento específico que busca un tipo específico de permiso contribuirá a los factores de estrés ambiental o de salud pública en una comunidad sobrecargada, teniendo en cuenta si esos factores de estrés podrían tener un impacto desproporcionado al compararlos con los vecinos de la comunidad sobrecargada, algo así como un análisis comparativo. La ley recuerda que el Departamento de Protección Ambiental de Nueva Jersey, N.J.D.E.P., por sus siglas en inglés, evalúe los factores de estrés ambiental y de salud pública más importantes que afectan a las comunidades sobrecargadas de Nueva Jersey, y que denigre o condicione los permisos para ciertos establecimientos que no pueden evitar causa o contribuir a los factores de estrés ambiental o de salud pública adversos en dichas comunidades. La ley aplica si se cumplen 3 criterios. El establecimiento se ubica o propone ubicarse en una comunidad sobrecargada, OBC, por sus siglas en inglés. El establecimiento propuesta o existen es uno de los 8 tipos de establecimientos enumerados en la ley como una fuente importante de contaminación atmosférica, un establecimiento de chatarra o un vertedero. El solicitante busca un tipo de permiso o aprobación del NJDEP cubierto por la ley. Cuando se aplica la ley de justicia ambiental, el solicitante deberá presentar una declaración de impacto sobre justicia ambiental, NJA.C, por sus siglas en inglés, al NJDEP, donde se evalúa el modo en que la acción propuesta, ya sea un nuevo establecimiento, la renovación de una fuente importante de contaminación atmosférica o la expansión de un establecimiento existe, contribuirá a los factores de estrés ambiental y de salud pública en la comunidad. La NJA.C también debe abordar la forma en que el solicitante propone evitar y cuando no sea posible evitarlo, minimizar dichos impactos y en determinadas circunstancias proporcionar un beneficio ambiental o de salud pública neto a la comunidad sobrecargada. La NJA.C se pondrá a disposición del público antes de la audiencia pública. El solicitante debe organizar una audiencia pública en la comunidad afectada para presentar el proyecto propuesto y la NJA.C, a fin de garantizar una participación pública significativa de los miembros de la comunidad sobrecargada, incluyendo un periodo de comentarios públicos de al menos 60 días para dar la oportunidad de recibir comentarios de los más afectados por el proyecto propuesto. Las notificaciones y los materiales se pondrían a disposición en los idiomas así libres para los miembros de la comunidad y el solicitante deberá responder a todos los comentarios recibidos. El NJDEP evaluará la NJA.C y la información presentada durante la audiencia pública y a través de los comentarios del público para determinar si los factores adicionales de estrés ambiental o de salud pública que se esperan de las acciones en la solicitud de permiso junto con la línea de base de los factores de estrés que ya impactan a la comunidad, causan o contribuyen a los factores de estrés ambientales o de salud pública acumulados y adversivos en esa OBC que son más altos en comparación a las comunidades del estado que no son OBCs. De ser así, se podría un impacto desproporcionado y el NJDEP podrá denegar el permiso o aprobarlo con condiciones que eviten o minimicen esos impactos. El 6 de junio del 2022, el NJDEP propuso una serie de reglas en el registro de Nueva Jersey para aplicar la ley de justicia ambiental. El periódico de comentarios públicos de esta propuesta se cierra el 4 de septiembre del 2022. Como se indicó en el anuncio publicado, los comentarios por escrito deben enviarlo electrónicamente a www.gov.DEP/COMMENTS o a Melissa Abertemarco número 05-2204, Office of Legal Affairs, Department of Environmental Protection, 401 East State Street, 7th floor, mail code 401-04L, P.O. Box 402, Trenton, New Jersey, 08625-0402. Los comentarios relevantes que se reciben durante el periodo de comentarios públicos se incluyeron en el registro de Nueva Jersey en caso de que el departamento adopte esta propuesta regla. La audiencia pública sobre la propuesta de regla se celebra de acuerdo con la Ley de Procedimientos Administrativos y como es debido, el Departamento ha proporcionado una notificación adicional de esta audiencia pública a través de su página web, a través de correo electrónico y mediante comunicación escrita con una serie de medios de comunicación. El objetivo de la audiencia es recibir comentarios verbales para que contesten por escrito en relación con la propuesta de norma. La audiencia no pretende ser una sesión de preguntas y respuestas, sino más bien una oportunidad para que las personas interesadas expresen sus preocupaciones y sugerencias con respecto a la normativa. Si todavía no lo ha hecho, firme la hoja de asistencia y indique si está interesado en participar en la audiencia de esta noche. A partir de ahora, comenzaremos a invitar a las personas que han solicitado una oportunidad para participar. Cuando se pronuncie su nombre, acaricie el micrófono y diga su nombre y dentro para el taquígrafo. Los pedimos que limite sus comentarios a 3 minutos. Si hay tiempo adicional, después de que todos hayan hablado, puede dar testimonio por 3 minutos más. I'm going to pass it back to Sean.
Thank you, Mondo. Okay, let's get to it. First name on the list, appropriately so, Mr. Cantor.
Thank you. My name is Raymond Cantor, C-A-R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, C-A-N-T-O-R. I am with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. We will be submitting written comments later. I will summarize one of our points here today. As I've mentioned before, we appreciate the process that the EMP employed to get us to this point, but we believe that these rules are missing an opportunity to actually improve conditions in the communities that we are concerned about. We're afraid that in 10 to 20 years from now, we will be looking back at this moment, wondering what went wrong. We have the opportunity to fix these rules now. The proposal uses stressors as surrogates for standards or for health impacts. Yet these are not actual standards, not actual health impacts. Despite these soft standards, the proposal is employing a very hard line. We're only looking at one side of the ledger of potential harm and ignoring the benefits that come from a number of these facilities, the economic benefits. We're missing a key point. The law itself recognizes that and defines an OBC as having a 35% low income level. That makes you an OBC. The rule itself also stresses that, or defines as a stressor, unemployment. It details that both the physical and emotional impacts of being low income or not having a job, the lack of health benefits that comes with that, and the other impacts. Yet it rejects a key solution to those fundamental problems by focusing on the minor potential impacts of stressors and ignoring the real benefits of having a job. We are faced with the potential situation where a facility could be coming into a community or proposing to, having good paying jobs, having a net environmental benefit, having the support of the elected officials, even having support of the environmental justice advocates in the area, but because on a ledger sheet you have more stressors than not, you have to turn them down. The department is not allowing for the flexibility it needs to actually make a real-world impact in these communities. We're talking about facilities that are now meeting all environmental standards, that can have a positive environmental impact, a positive economic impact, which the rule recognizes has real-world impacts on everyone's health and well-being. So we asked the department to revisit this position, to provide more flexibility, do not tie your hands. Let's look at how to really improve communities and not just have a prescriptive standard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Nathan Fishman.
My name's Nathan Fishman, Nathan Fishman. I'm from Stolen Lenape Land, East Brunswick, New Jersey, and I'm with the New Jersey Poor People's Campaign. The New Jersey environmental justice law rules need to ensure that there are absolutely no loopholes in the compelling public interest exception, and absolutely full access to participation to the permit process for multilingual communities to participate, and maximizing permit process participation for most impacted people and the wider public, and absolute commitment to reducing pollution rather than just preventing more. You might call me an out-of-work social worker, but I would argue that being available and being here makes me a very much at-work social worker. The 9 national core competencies for social workers include advancing environmental justice. I think that's because we can't uphold the other functions, like being ethical, like engaging in research-informed practice, and like valuing the local wisdom of diverse culture without doing EJ advocacy. My town is not subject to the immediate impacts of polluting facilities that overburdened communities are already experiencing, like higher rates of asthma, cancer, elevated particulate blood levels, and developmental problems. However, if I was in the last row of a bus that was going off of a cliff, I would still advocate for the driver to press on the brakes. In the context of our environmental degradation crisis, the brakes are adhering to and accountability to the public demand for protecting our overburdened communities. Besides my interest as an invested and outraged social worker, I'm also deeply immersed in my desire for a safe and healthy future for the children of our planet, for racial justice, equity, and liberation that's required for that healthy future, and for God's sake, for appreciation and mutual enjoyment of our natural spaces, scenery, air, and the wonders of the world. What we're doing here today is salvaging those things, all those things. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Dan Ortega.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Ortega, Ortega. I lead community affairs for the Engineers Labor Employee Cooperative, the labor management fund for the more than 8,000 men and women of the Operating Engineers Union and the more than 1,000 signatory contractors who employ them. As we plan our state future, it is important that we take all factors into account, not just the ones we want or that are fashionable of the day. We question whether how do we protect the environment for generations to come? How do we ensure our economy is strong for the long term? What are we doing to provide good jobs for our economy? What type of development do we want to see in our communities? Sadly, this has not been the case for our state environmental justice law from the beginning, and the regulations that have been hastily rolled out miss the mark entirely. Progress is not always a straight line, as some here are suggesting. Under these proposed rules, almost 2/3 of the state of New Jersey is designated as being overburdened under the proposed rules. 90% of those areas will be determined to have disproportionate impact. In plain terms, this means the type of economy we're trying to attract, such as advanced manufacturing and supply chain logistics, will be halted entirely. Moreover, expansions at universities, transportation centers, economic and other economic opportunities, and even healthcare centers will be at risk of being blocked completely. This is not progress. Rules that pick winners and losers rather than allowing local markets to determine what works and doesn't have never worked in our state's history. We have testified from the beginning that this law and now regulations were going to do more harm than good and needed to be overhauled significantly. Those comments were ignored. So here we are again to tell you that these regulations will do more harm than good. and that have completely missed the mark of striking a balance between economic opportunity and community protections. It is our hope that the state will listen at this time. This needs to be an open and working process, not just hearings for the sake of hearings and to fast-track a predetermined outcome. The working people of New Jersey deserve better. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Eric Benson? No? Oh, sorry. Got it. Okay, the last person I have is Paula Regovan, indicating.
Hi, I'm Paula Regovan, and I live in Teaneck, New Jersey. Since retiring as a teacher, I've been involved in efforts to stop the Meadowlands Power Plant in North Bergen, New Jersey Gas Plant in Kearney, PVSC plant in the Ironbound, all in environmental justice communities. In April, I participated in the Ironbound Community Corporation's truck count. We tabulated the number of huge and medium-sized trucks and smaller vehicles. Nearly every minute, there were huge trucks from Port Newark, warehouses, and heavy industry. Thousands of huge trucks spew diesel exhaust there every day. Nearby, there were 3 power plants and an incinerator. Every few minutes, huge jets from Newark Airport spewed toxic pollutants. I was in tears. I live in Teaneck, New Jersey. We don't have any power plants, incinerators, heavy industry, or warehouses. No one would even consider applying for a permit to build that in Teaneck. Huge trucks are forbidden on most Teaneck streets. Rules for the EJ law must be used to stop this injustice imposed on environmental justice communities. When PVSC held meetings about their proposed power plant, they said pollution from the power plant would be, quote, negligible. I say that new pollution in the Ironbound is just wrong, or any environmental justice community is just wrong. Currently, the impact of pollution on maternal health, miscarriages, stillbirths, premature births is unacceptable. The potential health impacts of a PVSC gas power plant were documented in a letter sent to the DEP and Governor Murphy by 139 healthcare providers and scientists. They documented that it is the toxic mix, the combined impact of pollution from those many sources, not just the pollution from one project, that must be essential in an environmental impact assessment. Rules for the EJ law, which you, the DEP, are considering, can be part of the remedy of this gross injustice. These are specific suggestions. The only purpose of these rules must be to protect the host community. If the project or renewal for the project is wrong, just say no. No compromise on people's health. Number 2, the potential stressors in the host community for a proposal must not be higher than those in other communities like my town of Teaneck. In 3, new project must not allow any additional pollution in the host community, none. Renewals must prioritize substantially reducing pollution. 4, regarding the so-called compelling public interest, that exception must be drastically limited. It must not be about economic benefits such as profits or job creation. No loopholes. There must be an extremely narrow interpretation of compelling public interest. 5, pollution travels. Therefore, public hearings must involve people far beyond the 200 feet near a project to at least 1,000 feet. Efforts to reach out to community residents and community must be multilingual and thorough. Every single resident within 1,000 feet must be contacted. 6, applicants for permits or renewals must respond to each public comment. And 7, applicants must withdraw or make changes to their application based on concerns of the public. And you know that I feel very strongly about this. It's a crime what's going on in New Jersey in environmental justice communities. It's a crime. The health impacts that are faced by people in overburdened, communities overburdened by facilities, polluting facilities. It's just a crime. It's wrong. And there should be no loopholes and no way around the rules. No way at all. This is about correcting historic injustices, and it must be done. These rules can do it. Please, no loopholes, no way of getting around the environmental justice rules. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have exhausted our list of speakers who signed up. Is there anyone who did not sign up or who signed up after we started that would like to speak? Anyone who spoke would like another 3 minutes? All right. Is that it? We're good? Okay. Well, I would like to very sincerely thank everyone for being here today. I want to encourage you again, if you have any further comments, to please submit them in writing. Also check the proposal. We have several other public hearings coming up, and we'd love to see you there as well. So thank you. Everyone have a wonderful day. All right, so we're keeping the record open for the time period that we set, so we'll be here until 5, so anyone who comes in after that, we'll continue to take those comments, and that brings us to Mr. Terrence Bankston.
She wasn't.
Good afternoon. My name is Terrence Bankston. I am the environmental justice organizer for Clean Water Action, the state's, one of the states, I should say, largest environmental federation. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Just a few points on the rule. I think obviously I'm preaching to the choir in terms of the importance of this particular rule, and not just that, but the enforcement and the accountability that comes along with it. And I think that that's what our concern is. We want to ensure that there are no loopholes. We want to ensure that folks who come from Black and brown communities like Camden, Trenton, Newark, where I'm from, that there is fair access to the process in terms of answering public comments. Anything else that I wanted to point out? Sorry about that. We just had a recent experience, and we're celebrating a victory some of you may have heard about in terms of a recent coalition involving warehouses. So Amazon was a prime example. And so my last point is just economics and jobs just can't be an offset, right? Because you give us jobs, because you say you will plant trees, that's not good enough to continue to pollute overburdened communities. And so we just want to, again, ensure that those things are taken into account as we move forward in this process. Thank you for your time.
Can you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
My last name is Bankston, B as in boy, A-N-K-S-T-O-N. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we've reached 5 o'clock, which is the end of this portion of the public hearing. We're going to close the record for an hour, and then we're going to restart at 6 o'clock. We'll do from 6 to 7 for anyone else who is going to join us in the evening. You all are welcome to stay, of course, and we will be back to reopen, and we'll reread the opening statements in about an hour. So thank you, everybody.